uh, I needed to find a way to make extra money. So I have worked in the field of education for a long time. I love it. And when I started off, I did not make a whole lot of money. So I thought that this would give me an opportunity to increase my income, and it wouldn't put a lot of demands on my time. So I could still work my regular job, which required me to work a lot of nights and weekends, and I travel quite a bit for work. So I couldn't always work a part-time job, a traditional part-time job for extra money. So being a property owner and having tenants was a way for me to have a small revenue stream outside of my regular job that didn't require me to clock in all the time. Kind of it's pretty funny, but it's not funny because it could have been pretty bad. So I have a piece of property that's a four-family unit, and it's located at the end of the street, and there are a lot of trees and stuff around, and it's at a dead end, and it backs to a wooded area, and so there are raccoons in the area. So one particular raccoon found his way to the roof and made his home in the roof. So raccoons are very destructive and very powerful. So he was able to work his way through the roof, made an entry into the roof, and was running around in the roof of the building. So basically over the top of the tenants' heads who live in the top two units on the top floor. So he found his way to an access panel and down into the lady's closet. So she was in her apartment and she heard all this noise in her closet, and the raccoon was actually inside her closet, and she had to call animal control. She said she couldn't find my number, so she didn't call me. So all of this went on, and I knew nothing about it. So when I finally did talk to her, she told me about how the raccoon was there and they couldn't catch it, and they tried to catch it for an hour, and it ended up running back up into the roof, and that's where it was. So I had to call a wildlife control company, and they came out and they set traps, and they put raccoon specific bait in the trap so that the raccoon would go into the trap, and then they could remove it from the area so it wouldn't go back in to the roof and try to make its home or make a nest or have babies. It could be raccoons. If you ever, I didn't know about this, but if you look up the damage that raccoons can do in houses, it's crazy what they can do. So anyway, that was a situation that was completely unexpected. I had not accounted for raccoon pest control, wildlife removal contracts, none of that. And it was an expense that I had, and I had to pay it immediately. So that's one of the things about having property. You have to be prepared to pay for things, the unforeseen, things that just pop up. So I have 7 tenants, and I have 3 single-family units and 1 4-family unit, and each one of them, if I collect all my rent for each month, I would get between $4,500 and $5,000. But then I also have a couple of mortgages that I pay from that. So I like to pay my expenses, my mortgage, then all my expenses first. And if I collect all the rent that month, that's great. I take whatever the difference is between what I collect in rent, what my bills are, and I save it. I don't use my rental income for my personal living expenses. I use my job, my regular salary for that. So if I'm able to save $2,000 or $3,000 a month, that's great. So I mentioned earlier about the raccoon situation. So that cost me $300 to pay the guy with the raccoon. Then I would have to pay somebody another $300 or $400 to come and cut trees and patch up the roof. So on a month like that, instead of making $3,000 and being able to save $3,000, that cut into my ability to save. So it varies. I'd like to say every month I should be, even with a few unexpected expenses, be able to save $2,000. That's my goal. and I try not to dip into that unless it's an expense related to the property. So every once in a while, there you need to have things done that cost a lot. So if I need a roof, I already have money set to the, money saved that will allow me to get a roof, and I can just pay for that. So that's my goal. With the reason why I'm doing this is so that I can save money, and that down the road when it's time for me to retire, I'll have a little extra money. I do. It has been worth it for me because it's been a good way for me to learn a lot. So, aside from being able to save money, I have learned a whole lot about housing and the rental market and real estate. And I've learned a bunch about home repair. I know how to paint. I know a whole lot about lawn care. I can do some minor repairs. I know a lot about codes and ordinances. I know about occupancy permits and inspections. So I learned an awful lot that I think will be valuable down the road. So my job, my career is with the university, and I'm in education, but having these rental properties over the last, it's only been about 10 years that I've been doing this. So having the properties over the last 10 years, I've gained a new skill set. So at some point, it might be very beneficial for me to know how to do this stuff. It's also given me the ability to take control of my finances and not be totally dependent upon my job. So I can say, all right, if I need extra money, I can actually create this revenue stream. So right now, if I have a certain amount of money saved, I can go to the bank and say, I want to buy another house. And as long as my finances are in order, they will say, okay, you can buy another house, and then I can take a piece of the money I have, invest it in this new house, and then over the long term have that money return to me over time.